Okay, so the stuff you sent over for this deep dive,
Oh, yeah.
it's really
Heavy.
intense. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Um, we're going to Houston, Texas for this one.
Right.
And this is a story about an apartment,
Okay.
a seemingly normal apartment,
Right.
but just a really disturbing story. We're going to try and understand how a mother, Gloria Williams,
Mm-hmm.
could not only stand by and watch her 8-year-old son, Kendrick Lee,
Right.
be killed by her boyfriend, Brian Coulter,
Yeah.
but then continue to live with his remains
Oh, my God.
with her kids
Wow.
for a year.
A year.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So this one's going to be tough, but we're going to unpack it together.
It's definitely a case that raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
For sure.
And to understand this whole thing, I think we should go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
With the 911 call.
Okay.
That exposed this whole thing.
Right, because it wasn't Gloria Williams who called the police or anything.
Yeah.
It was actually Kendrick's 15-year-old brother who finally made that call.
After a year?
A full year after the murder happened.
Oh, my gosh.
And he told the operator that his brother was dead and his body was in the next room.
Can you imagine the weight of that call?
I can't even imagine.
Especially after a year.
Especially after a year. Oh, my God.
How living with that?
Yeah, that's a lot for a kid.
Yeah. The fact that it even took a year for somebody to call
Right.
really speaks volumes about what was going on.
It does.
In that apartment.
Yeah, and, the deputy that showed up
Yeah.
actually thought it was a prank.
Really?
At first, yeah. That's how unbelievable this was.
Wow.
When they got to the apartment, it was just, deplorable.
Really bad.
Soiled carpets, no furniture, roaches, flies.
Oh, my gosh.
Just a really, really sad picture of neglect.
Yeah.
And that's even before we considered Kendrick's death.
Yeah, and it's not like Kendrick died from the neglect either. It's not like he starved to death or didn't get medical attention.
Right.
This was violence, right?
Yeah, this was violence.
Like he was beaten to death.
Yeah. Coulter repeatedly beat Kendrick.
Oh, my God.
And that sustained abuse is what led to his death.
Gee.
Around Thanksgiving of 2020.
And then they just left.
Yeah, so after his death...
You would think they'd do something.
You think, right.
Like call the police.
Call somebody, get help.
Or, get help or something.
Right.
But instead...
They just moved to a new apartment.
What?
Leaving the other 3 children.
No way.
Aged 7, 10, and 15.
Oh, my gosh.
Alone in that apartment.
What?
With their brother's decomposing body.
Alone with their brothers.
Yeah.
That's the part that gets me.
Oh, my gosh.
Like leaving the kids...
I know.
With the body? How is that even possible?
Yeah. And
Like you think about a mother.
Right.
You think protector.
Yeah, you think about them as protectors.
What could have made her,
Right.
snap like that?
I know. It really makes you think about the psychology of this whole situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Do you think she was afraid of the boyfriend?
It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she was just so overwhelmed with everything
Right.
that she just shut down. We just don't know.
Yeah.
And we may never know for sure.
And this is where it gets even more complicated.
Okay.
Williams claims that she checked on the children every 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So does that explain anything?
That's a tough one.
Or does it make it worse?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
On the one hand, it seems like she cares.
Right. Like there's some sense of responsibility there.
But on the other hand...
But on the other hand, it's like...
Just leaving your kids there.
Yeah, like you're still leaving your kids.
It's still really bad.
Yeah, that's just profound neglect.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the psychological issues at play here.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a bad decision.
Right.
This was a long period of just terrible choices.
Wow.
In the face of just awful suffering.
Yeah. So this is heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started.
We are.
But before we go any further, I think we need to talk about what happened to Coulter and Williams.
Okay.
What did the justice system do about all of this?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, well, they were both held accountable.
Okay.
Coulter got life in prison.
Wow.
Without parole for murder. And Williams pleaded guilty to injury to a child.
Okay.
And got 50 years.
50 years.
Yeah. But, it's important to think about what justice really means here.
Right, because it's easy to focus on the punishment.
It is.
But is that really enough?
Exactly. And does it really address the bigger issues?
Like, what allowed this to happen in the first place?
Right? Were there any warning signs?
Yeah. Like, could anyone have helped these kids before it got this bad?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if anyone in their lives noticed anything.
Right, like teachers or neighbors or family.
Yeah, were there any signs that were missed?
Yeah.
Well, child abuse and neglect often happen in secret.
Right.
And these guys moved around a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which makes it hard to keep track of them.
Yeah.
and to notice any patterns.
It's a huge red flag
It is.
when families move around constantly.
Definitely. It really disrupts their support systems.
Right. It makes it easier to hide.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And it makes it harder for agencies like Child Protective Services to
Yeah.
keep an eye on them.
It's like those kids were invisible
It is sad.
to the system that was supposed to protect them.
It really is.
Which brings up a good point.
Okay.
How do we as a society
Yeah.
become more aware of child abuse?
That's the big question.
What can we do to recognize the signs?
It starts with education.
Okay.
We need to learn the signs of abuse and neglect.
Mm-hmm.
And not just the physical signs,
Right.
but the behavioral ones too.
Okay, like what?
Like changes in behavior,
Okay.
withdrawal,
Yeah.
aggression, anxiety,
Mm.
unexplained injuries,
Okay.
fear of going home,
Right.
changes in school performance.
These are all things that we might not think about.
We don't always think about those,
Right.
but they can be signs.
So we need to pay attention
We do.
to the subtle stuff.
To the little things.
Yeah.
Because abuse can be hard to detect.
Right. Yeah.
We need to be vigilant.
Not just as individuals,
Right.
but as communities.
As a whole,
Right.
we need to create a culture where kids feel safe
Yes.
to talk about abuse.
And where adults
Okay.
feel like they can report it.
Exactly.
That's so important.
It is, because sometimes just one person speaking up can make all the difference.
Yeah, it's about shifting our mindset
It is.
from it's not my business to
Right.
we all have a responsibility to protect children.
I love that.
And that means more than just reporting abuse.
It does.
It also means supporting families that are struggling,
Absolutely.
giving them resources and tools to create a safe environment for their kids.
I agree.
So it's not just about individual failures.
Right.
It's about society as a whole.
It's a societal issue.
We need to address poverty,
Yes.
mental health issues, domestic violence,
All of those things.
things that can contribute to abuse.
Absolutely.
We need to prevent abuse
We do.
as much as we intervene.
Right.
We need programs that support families,
Yes.
teach parents how to be good parents,
Exactly.
and create communities where people feel connected.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, it's about breaking the cycle of abuse
It is.
and making sure every child has a chance to thrive.
That's the goal.
It feels like we could talk about this forever.
Yeah, we could.
But before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what can our listeners take away from this?
That's a good question.
What can they do
Yeah.
to help prevent these kinds of tragedies?
Well, this case is obviously awful,
Yeah.
but it can also be a way to make things better.
Okay.
We can honor Kendrick's memory
Right.
by actually doing something.
So how do we do that?
It starts with awareness,
Okay.
learn about the signs of abuse.
Right.
There are organizations like Child Help USA.
Okay.
They have tons of information online
About the sign.
about the signs, the risk factors, how to report it.
Okay, so we got to educate ourselves.
We do.
But what about in our everyday lives?
Yeah.
Like when we see families
Right.
at the store or at school,
Mm-hmm.
what can we do then?
Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there.
Okay.
Offer to babysit,
Yeah.
volunteer at a school,
Right.
even just talking to a parent at the park.
Right. Just show them that they're not alone.
Exactly.
But what if we actually see something?
Okay.
Like signs of abuse?
Yeah.
What do we do then?
I know, it could be scary.
Yeah, you don't want to overstep,
Right.
but not doing anything can be even worse.
Exactly.
So if you see something,
Yeah.
say something,
Report it.
you can call Child Protective Services
You can.
or the Child Health Hotline.
Mhm.
You don't have to be 100% sure.
You don't.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
And reporting abuse
Yeah.
isn't about accusing anyone.
It's not.
It's about protecting a child. Exactly.
And it could literally save their life.
It really could.
And we can also push for bigger changes.
You can?
Right. Like supporting organizations
Yeah.
that work to prevent abuse.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk to our elected officials.
Absolutely.
Tell them to make policies that protect kids.
We can be the voice for kids who don't have one.
It's about creating a world
Yeah.
where every child feels safe,
Yes.
loved, and supported.
And that starts with us.
This case has been really tough to talk about,
It has.
but it's also a reminder that we can make a difference.
We can.
Even small things can help,
They can.
like being kind,
Yeah.
speaking up,
Mm-hmm.
and advocating for change.
Absolutely.
So to our listeners,
Yeah.
thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
You're not alone in this.
We're all in this together.
Let's work together
Yes.
to create a better future for all children.
I love that.
That's all for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.